It's just crazy. But anyway, I'm excited that you're here and I can't wait to dive in with this. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So you tell me when you're ready and I'm ready.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So hello and welcome everyone to Extreme Confidence and How to Get It. I'm your host, Mia Hewitt, and I am passionate in supporting you be who you need to be to have the extreme confidence in your performance, results, and by being the leader you always knew you could be. One of the best ways that I know for entrepreneurs to really maximize their results is for them to become an expert in their field. And for that very reason, I could not think of anyone better for this episode than my next guest. He is someone I call a dear friend and who I have personally worked with. He is the 3 times best-selling author, speaker, coach, Corey Gladwel. So if you have ever wanted to get your message out in the world, become a bestseller, yet maybe you've kind of struggled with some fear or self-doubt, well, or maybe you just don't even know where to start. It's overwhelming. Well, you're in such good hands tonight because my expert speaker, Corey, is going to give you the clarity you need and the steps for you to take so you can have extreme confidence in writing, publishing, and launching a best-selling book in 60 days or less, all along while doing it by creating an income through your impact. So welcome, Corey. I'm just so glad that you're here with me tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
It's going to be great. I'm going to dive right in. I want to give a little bit of background about you. So Corey Gladwel built his knowledge of entrepreneurship and discovered his path of enlightenment from his own life experiences. You see, after struggling in Section 8 in welfare, when he was just a young boy, Corey grew up with an intense desire to succeed. Well, by the age of 23, Corey owned a nightclub, his own vodka brand, and a restaurant, all of which were highly prosperous, but only to end up self-sabotaging them all and almost becoming nearly homeless. Well, afterwards, he had an amazing experience he calls a spiritual awakening, where he began to see life differently and connecting with the oneness of all of life. Well, he now runs a wildly successful business, leading others to do the same with their desire through the personal and financial transformations. So, Corey, this is a huge beginning, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, you just came out and, like, hit the gas pedal and just took off.
Yeah, it's weird. Whenever I hear someone tell my story as like an introduction, I'm always like, who is this guy? I got to meet him. I'm like, oh, wait. That's me. That's crazy. Yeah, I forget sometimes that was my life. That's how it happened. It's weird. Yeah.
It's amazing. And so what would you say, and I know there's a lot of things that you could pull from, but what part specifically about your past would you say was your biggest failure? And then how did that failure give you the confidence to later succeed?
So I think a big part of it was, and I've talked to you about this before. I talked to a lot of my clients about it because it's a huge shift that I think a lot of people will fail to realize until it's too late, and you almost don't realize it until it happens. And so my big failure was my mindset in my focusing on my goals and thinking that, if I arrived somewhere that it was going to be the epitome. I was going to reach this pinnacle, this heaven, this place that I was going to get to. And you never really get there because when I got there, I had no thought of what was after that. And so I was 23, had a nightclub, restaurant, vodka brand, came up from Section 8, had nothing, and all of a sudden had these $1 million businesses, the time, attention, affection, every 23-year-old guy could ever want. And I was wholly unsatisfied. And so I think it's the fact that I was obsessed with that part and not thinking through the next steps, not thinking through what happens after that, not having a bigger purpose or wanting to make a bigger impact, and my why being deep enough to actually make a change. So
that's a great, I so understand that, What would you say, like, how did you overcome that so it doesn't happen again? Was it specifically mindset or mindset along with something else?
So I think it starts with mindset. I think for me, everything I do, and at least I almost feel like everyone, but I won't speak for the whole population of the planet, but I feel like for me at least, it starts with my mindset, my perception, my view of the world and myself, and then it integrates into a belief system. And then once it becomes my belief system, it carries on into an action. And so I think it starts with my mindset of being able to see that I'm always here. I'm never really going to get anywhere specific, and that I have a deeper purpose, a deeper passion, a deeper thing that's driving me. And there's always something more to give versus just what can I get? Because I think when you start on a path of being able to create anything, whether it be any business or books or courses or coaching or live events or whatever an entrepreneur wants to do, products, services, once you go down that path, there's no end to it. And I think you have to really have a bigger why of an impact you want to make. And so I think I try to find that bigger why. I help my clients too. What would they do if they had everything? What would you do if you had all the time and money and the business and everything? Then what? Then what's next? And I think when you have that kind of mindset, then you have something bigger to pull you forward, bigger than you probably could have reached otherwise.
I totally agree with you. When I was able to develop a bigger why, it really got out of my identity. Right? Like it was no longer about me. And when I'm in my identity, I am really good for no one. So I totally get knowing your bigger why. What would you say is your bigger why? Like, why are you doing this? At the end of it all, what is it that you most want to leave this planet with?
So I believe fully in the 100th monkey syndrome. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but so mathematically, a lot of people have looked into this, that it would take about 100 million people to systemically shift the consciousness of humanity. 100 million people living in a new paradigm, a new way of being. And so when you look at the most influential country, it's America. America usually influences a lot of the population of the planet itself, and we kind of spill over. So it takes about 10 million Americans to be able to shift for the country to really shift. And then from the country to shift, then it will shift the world. So my ultimate goal is really to shift as many people as I can and raise their vibrational frequency of consciousness. I do that through entrepreneurship because it gives me the freedom to do so. And I can make a bigger impact with my books, with speaking, with everything else. And so I try to impact as many individuals as I can to help them become their own soldiers of change in the world. Because I think the more of us that are out shifting more people, the faster we'll get to that 100 monkey syndrome, to where the tipping point will occur and all of humanity will shift into a, not necessarily utopian society, but a better way for all. So that's kind of a big hippie Southern California way of looking at the world, but that's what drives me. So
I love it. And I got to ask you, what's your number then? You have a number.
So for me, I believe that if I can positively affect change in 10,000 people and help 10,000 people succeed, that's kind of my number, because if I affect 10,000 people, that I think those 10,000 people can help 10,000 people, and then we'll get to our number a lot faster. So
I love it. I love it. So what had you decide to become an author?
So I've always had like an inkling of like kind of wanting to write a book a little bit, kind of got curious about it a little bit, but I never really did much with it until I had my spiritual experience and had that like 3 weeks of enlightenment. And then I went into deep meditation afterwards, and had this whole entirely new kind of observer, objective way of looking at the world. And as Jesus said, I'm in this world, but not of it, kind of this weird, like, I didn't know what this thing was. And so because of that, I would spend these nights in meditation, and all these beautiful insights would come to me about life and existence and about the human condition and all these different things. And so I started just kind of writing down notes and my realizations, and then they stockpiled into chapters, and then it became an entire book, and one thing led to another. So
would you say that you're a lot more intuitive now after that experience?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny because I don't consciously think of it as intuition, but anyone who knows me or gets to know me, they're always like, God, I'm so impressed by your ability to follow your own intuition. And to me, I'm always like, what do you mean? Isn't that what everyone does? But no. It's not. And, I follow, like, to me, I fully believe that I should follow that feeling. And that's why I say I follow that feeling. So anytime someone says, well, I love that, and it just makes me so excited. And then you always see that part where they go, but, and there's that but that comes in that wants to erase everything they just said about how exciting and passionate they were.
Yes.
And I'm always like, all that first feeling, before the fear of the but comes in because of the fear, right? And so before the fear comes in, follow that first feeling. And if you don't know, it's unknown, it's scary, you have no certainty, You don't even know the how, right? You just know that it feels good and you want to kind of follow that feeling. And the universe, to me, or society, human beings, everyone you know will somehow, for me, what I've seen is they'll come together and coalesce to help you find the how-to if you just follow that feeling in a good way. Because I think, love attracts love, fear attracts fear, joy attracts joy, so on and so forth. And you follow that feeling more and more, you'll bring that into your life on a more regular basis. So.
Now, I've got to ask you, since you said that, because when you say follow that feeling, I know that there's listeners right now going, I follow my feelings and I always end up in the gutter, There's going to be someone. So how do you really be able to uncollapse the feeling of when it's intuition versus when you're just inside of a story or there's something, how do you distinguish between the two?
So does everyone win? Does everyone win? That to me is the answer, or the question I ask myself. Does everyone win? Because I think if it's really your intuition, if it's really like a positive thing that you should follow, then everyone has to win, and it has to come from a place of unconditional, right? If you're coming from a place of conditions of I will, but if, maybe type of things, stipulations on God or the universe or whatever you want to believe in, or yourself even, and you have all these stipulations and conditions on it, then you're not really in surrender. You're not really in intuition. You're not really in a place of true abundance, because if you're following the feeling, then what you really should look for as a reward is more of that feeling, right? That should be the reward, is following more of that to get more of that, right? It unfolds and it creates more of itself. But if you're in it because you have a secret intention, so that's what a lot of people I think get tricked up on, and why they get in the gutter, or so to speak, is that they say it's a feeling. Really, they have a secret intention. I'm going to love my relationship or my spouse, whoever. I'm going to love them so much, and I don't, care what they do. But the secret intention is I want them to love me more. I'm going to love them. I'm going to do this so that I can get that. And it's always like there's always like a hidden agenda or a hidden motive, or and I think when you know yourself well enough, you can catch that, and so you can see, like, is this feeling coming from of some kind of selfish conditional intent? But if it's really unconditional, then you really want the best for everyone involved and the best for yourself, and that, I think, can't go wrong. I think when you come from a place of always wanting the best, it can't go wrong. And the other thing that I would side note is that I think a lot of us, because of those conditions, we think I'm following the feeling and it's not showing up how I think it's supposed to show up. But that's, again, conditional. Maybe it's showing up exactly how it's supposed to show up. You just are expecting this certain box it's supposed to be in. And so, of course, it doesn't seem like that. But if you kind of expand that awareness a little bit and realize maybe the perfect storm is brewing, it just might be in the timing or the place or the people that you think it's supposed to. And so being able to have that kind of 360 mentality to view it may help you see a little bit clearer too.
And I love what you're touching on here, because really, that is extreme trust, right? I mean, you're really trusting. And, would you say trust, or would you use the word faith? Because, I think anybody can use what they like on it, but inside of it, it just feels like, it's really a surrender, like you had explained. There is that feeling of surrender because you really trust that it's all working out. Even, like I always say to myself, it's always working out for me, even when I can't see how.
So prime example, right? I try to explain this to everyone. I try to do this to my mom even, because I'm like, I just really want people to see this. Yeah. Every one of my clients comes to me and they're like crisis mode, right? Like this and that and everything, and it's all going to fall apart. I don't know what to do. And the fire marshal's coming to inspect my building and everything's, I'm going to get fines and I'm going to get shut down. And I'm like, okay, I get all that. I get all the fears. I get all the worries. I get all that stuff. And I truly believe it is trust, is the way I would like to look at it, is true trust in yourself, really, and everything. But if you look backwards on your life, anyone who's listening to this, I know right now you've always made it through. And you can argue it until you haven't, but you're alive. And unless you've died, which if you're dead, you're probably not able to listen to this. And unless you died, you've always made it through. You're batting 1,000. You've always come through, no matter what it feels like in the moment or looks like. Right now, you have an internet connection somehow. You have a cell phone or a computer to listen to this. You somehow can afford to live. It may not be that you're a multi-billionaire and living on a private island. It may not be that you have the perfect relationship and the perfect career and the perfect everything that you've always dreamed of with your high expectations of how life should be or shouldn't be. Yeah. But you've always made it through. No matter how bad it's ever gotten, you didn't die. And unless you're dying, everything else to me is an imaginary problem, because we're so confused by being able to accept the joy in our life and accept the goodness, which is a whole other topic we can get into. We can't accept it, that we think there's a manifestation of imagination problems, of fake problems, self-made issues, but we've always battled 1,000. We've always got through. And so that to me is how I reignite my trust and my faith, or whatever you want to call it, in the universe, and in myself, in people around me, is that no matter what, we've always come through. I've always somehow found a way, even if I can't see it right now. And that's the faith, is having, a trust is having faith in things unseen. And so even if I can't see it, I know I've always done it before. So why can't I always do it in the future?
Yes, and that's why I wanted to spend a few minutes on that when you touched on it, because I think it's so important, because oftentimes what we see on TV and in the media is very superficial, and what we're not getting is the real grounded, behind the scenes value of what has you be so successful. And that's so important to me, that people really get it's this way of being that is really, would you say, has really given you your success. It's right now is that way of being.
No, 100%. I think it's funny, because there's so many people out there that are like, you got to hustle. You got to like control and manipulate and strategize. And not that it's bad to have a strategy or bad to have a plan, but like be committed, but not attached, right? Like you can have an exciting plan and like a strategy of what you're going to do, but like be open to the possibility, be open to the moment, because it's twofold. One is, everything I've ever done or created has always come from that place. It's always come from like a free-flowing, non-attached, joyous place of being in the moment. That's number one. Number two is that, why am I going to, like I said earlier in the first part of the interview, why am I going to work so hard to get to a place I'm never going to arrive at? You can ask every 80-year-old you've ever talked to, and every 90 or 100-year-old, they never arrived. No one ever got anywhere, right? There is nowhere to go, because you're here right now. And so why not enjoy the journey? Because I've interviewed some billionaires, and every billionaire has always said the same thing. Like, fall in love with the journey. Don't fall in love with 1 billion. Fall in love with the journey to get there, and who you have to become, and the things you have to learn, and how you have to grow. That's the exciting part. That's why we chased it. As entrepreneurs, for me, and I think a lot of us, we have that pyramid of self-actualization, which is almost a duplicate mirror for entrepreneurs. But the pinnacle of that is significance. Instead of self-transcendence for the regular one, it's significance. We want something larger than life. So why not love that journey as you become larger than life, and fall in love with those steps? Because then you can appreciate each moment on the way to getting wherever you think you're supposed to get to.
I love it. Such great clarity. And so I'm going to continue on this clarity. When is the best time for our listeners to write a book?
Right now, yesterday. There's literally, there's no faster way to gain credibility and authority in your market, or become the go-to expert, or become, that I've heard of at least. There's tons of certs and courses and things you can take and get or whatever, and which is great, and not that any of those are bad or good or anything. But the second you write, I'm a high school dropout. I'm a kid from Section 8. I have no degrees. I have no certifications. And I run 8-9-figure businesses that I consult for. They pay me high figures to just tell them what to do, to boss them around on how they're going to scale their business. And I have no reason to be able to do that. The only status I have is that I'm a best-selling author. And that's what got me to get them to listen to me. And then once they could listen to me, then I could say, here's how and why and everything you should do. And then they're like, okay, you actually have some smarts to you. Please help us, right? But if I hadn't had the first or second or third best-selling book, and been on, which led me to go on podcasts, which led me to go on Fox News and ABC, which led me to be a speaker at Mastermind, which led me to go to the Elite Man Conference, which led to everything else, because it's your foot in the door. And now I have this list of credentials of all these places and people I know, and connections, relationships, and all these things that I can do. That started with a book. It started with me following the passion of writing a book, and now it's a business, and now it's everything that I wanted. So if you are thinking about it, or you're doing it, whatever it is, just write a book, get it out there.
I love it. And so what would you say, is there a very first step for our listeners that they should take before they begin to write? Or is it just begin? Is there a first step?
I think it would be good to have your intention set, just like we talked about earlier, right? With why are you trying to manifest or follow your intuition? Yeah. I think intention is everything in life. If you don't know your intention for your life or why you're in business, first of all, do that first. Find out what your intention for your life is. What is your what is the point of why you want to do this? Because entrepreneurship is hard to begin with. And the same goes with a book. Like if you don't have an intention for it, you're going to kind of just throw out all kinds of things and have no real direction, which not that you can't be in the moment, but I think you should have an underlying intention as you're coming from that creative place to dump content, because I think that's when you can tap into something beyond your cognitive functioning. You can kind of let something else flow out of you because you have an underlying intention of where your ideas come from, of where your purpose is, and what you really want to do with this book and how you want to impact the world or business with that book. So intention, I think, is first.
Absolutely. Know your why. And Corey, now you know what it takes to write a best-selling book, but you also know how to write it another one and another one and another one. So what are the keys to writing a bestseller?
So I think the biggest thing is, like, with creating content, anything you do, videos, live streams, courses, coaching program, everything, don't ever create like a crap product, right? Like don't ever create anything that people aren't going to want to use, right? Because especially with a book, that's forever. You can delete a course off online, but once something's published on the internet or anywhere, it's forever there. So like, so the thing is, you want to put a great piece of content out. And I always try to tell people, like, people are always like, but it's only $15. You know, I don't want to give away my best stuff. Give away your best stuff. Like a year from now, you're going to come up with 6 new products, 6 new courses, and 6 new books. We always, as entrepreneurs, tap into more things and come up with more things. So give away your best stuff, and don't be afraid, because the truth is, like, 85% of people aren't going to really read the whole book anyways. You can give away so many nuggets of information, and a lot of people aren't going to actually finish all the way through. And I think the few people that do will give you great reviews, will give you, tons of accolades and referrals and everything else. So give away your best stuff.
And what would you say separates a best-selling author from an author? Like what makes them best-selling?
So I love anyone who wants to be an author, because I think you're putting out something in the world that the world needs. So I think it's great to just be an author itself and be published. Mm-hmm. But I think a big thing with being a best-selling author is that you're going to get the recognition. You're going to get the status on your resume. And it means that thousands of people have actually, grabbed onto something, gravitated towards it, have actually wanted to let, your perspective on paper, your beliefs go into their mind. And so when you have numbers like that, people look to it more, because, it's the same thing with like a SaaS program or any big business, right? Like social media, the reason these companies sell for billions or hundreds of millions of dollars is because of the user base. It's numbers, it's the amount of people that you can influence. And so a bestseller is kind of the same thing. If you can influence thousands of people versus a few hundred people, people are going to look to you more to want to work with you, give you book contracts, get you on tour, or whatever else it may be.
And what do you think was the key that actually distinguishes that? Like what certain things is it that has that book become best-selling, or that author become a best-selling author versus somebody who's just an author? Like what distinguishes that?
I think a big part of it for me that I would relate most of it to is my tribe. I think before I released even my first book, I had 10,000 people follow me on Facebook, listening to videos from me, everything else, So I think if you don't have a book yet, or even if you do have a book, like build a fan base, give away free content, get organic followers, paid traffic, all of it. Like get people to know, like, and trust you before you ever try to sell them anything. And then it makes the sale, whether however big or small, that much easier, because people want to, like, how can, like, people at this point, if I put out a free live stream with someone, people message me and just ask me how they can work with me or buy stuff from me, or like I have a call after this for someone who wants to do one-on-one coaching, which I kind of stopped doing because I can't afford always to have that much time give away. But I've raised my prices 3 times what they were 6 months ago, and people still are like, okay, please, can I work with you? But it's only because I put out so much great content that people know that I'm going to always over deliver with paid content. So I think giving away enough so you have a good tribe, people that love you and know, like, and trust you, will make it that much easier to become a bestseller.
Absolutely. And what would you say has being a bestseller author done for your life? Like, what does that do for you?
I think to me, it opened up the doors to everything. And kind of like I mentioned earlier, like that was the key ingredient to getting people to listen to me. I don't have any credentials. I have no credentials other than I'm an entrepreneur. I built a bunch of businesses from nothing. And so people look at that as great, but then to have a best-selling author, 1 in 3 people want to write a book, and barely anyone actually do. And then on top of that, who actually becomes a bestseller and who continues to sell? The average book sells 200 copies. So like to get in that percentage of people, anyone who's in business knows that complication of how hard that actually is. So I think it opened up the doors to so many things. Like I don't think Fox News would have interviewed me if I didn't have a best-selling book. They would have been like, who are you and why are you going to come on TV? So it opens up a ton of different stuff to people that really want to work with you and look at you in a different way.
And so speaking to those people listening right now, they're like, oh, but he was just lucky. Right? So like, what would you say writing a bestseller, not about luck, I mean, more about having a plan?
It's a strategy. It's 100% a strategy. It's not, it's not something that you just throw it out there and hope it works. I mean, like I said, I planned 6 months before I released my first book. I had built up the audience online. I released probably 60 videos. I did retargeting. I did a ton of stuff to really strategize. And that's what I teach in a lot of my courses when it like to be a best-selling author is strategy, is having it set up. You want to give ahead of time. Like Gary Vaynerchuk, he talks about his jab, 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 right hook. He's given so much free content. He doesn't even sell anything. He gets paid his keynotes and does his speaking things and does his like consulting. But he could release, he's given so much free content out that he could release any course for whatever price and make millions of dollars. People will just buy it without ever having to go through a sales process. You can just go straight to a sales page and do it because he's giving away so much. So I think it's 100% about strategy. I have a specific secret strategy that I probably won't give away for free because it's people pay a lot of money to find out how that is. But it's absolute strategy. But I think the easiest way for anyone to do that is just build up people that love you and that want to follow you and share your information with others.
Absolutely. And so I'm going to poke a little more on strategy. So how do you create an income through your impact? What does that really look like as a business model?
Yeah. So for me, I think to have the most integrity, at least you can have business in any way, but for me to have the most integrity for myself, I always teach what I've already gone through. So I teach what I know, what my personal experience is, and that's how I stay in integrity because I can teach what I've gone through, and then someone that's behind me, I can bring them to where I am. And as long as I'm a few inches ahead, then I can always teach people behind me. And so that to me is creating income through your impact because the impact you're having on the world and what you've learned through your experience, you're able to translate backwards and pull them forward. And that should be, to me, who your ideal customer is who you used to be. And you know them inside and out. You know their pains, their struggles, their worries. And so you can help them get to where you are now because you've been there before. And so that's kind of, to me, how you make an income through your impact. And then the greater impact you make, the greater influence you have, and the easier it is to make an even bigger income. So. Got
it. Okay. And so then what would you recommend for those listening that they're kind of struggling right now with, well, how do I get up the courage to kind of get out there and start speaking? I mean, I can probably write a book, but then how am I ever going to talk, on a talk show host? So like, what would you say for somebody who's kind of struggling with the discomfort of putting themselves out there?
I would say when they're done listening to this interview to hop on Facebook Live right now and just do it and just get uncomfortable and get awkward and be weird and have your mom and your cousin and your friends and everyone that you know or don't know on there listening to you, or maybe no one on there and you're just talking to yourself, but stay on and just live stream as often as possible. That's probably the easiest way to get uncomfortable fast and get used to being uncomfortable is live streaming because you can't edit it. People are going to hear your mistakes. People are going to hear your mess ups. If you burp, then people are going to know that you're human and people actually might love you more for it. And I think that is going to help you realize that people want to relate to you as a normal person and they don't want to put you on a pedestal like you think you need to be in order to sell them something. People want to feel like that you can connect with them and that it's a more personal thing. And I think that's gonna help you get more comfortable with it and realize, people actually love you for you versus who you think you need to be.
I mean, I love that point because two things that I really get from that is, it's really in doing it, right? So it's like the uncomfortableness is like you do it and then you got over it and you're like, oh, I survived. And then it's like you do it again and then it gets easier. And then you do it again and you get easier. And then you do it again. And like, it's just like riding a bike.
It's exactly a habit building. It's the same thing. I mean, once you do something a couple times, it gets easier and easier. And then you're like, other people are weird about it or uncomfortable. And you're like, why is that uncomfortable for you? I don't get it. But you've done it so much. It just seems like second nature at that point,
Yeah, and I love the second point that you really pointed out, which is really about the fear of doing it right? Like I struggled with that for so long, wanting to just like do it right. Like, oh, did I do that right? Did I do that right? like just wanting it to be too perfect. And I will tell you that perfection definitely, kills. So kills profits. Absolutely. And what I've said to myself, what I've actually said to myself is perfection kills profits. And that has gotten me so quick to get off trying to do it right, because I just say that to myself and I call myself out, right? And just trying to do it right. So have you ever struggled with that? I'm just curious.
Oh, 100%. So I call it learning mode. I call it learning mode. And I watch so many people stay in the learning mode. They're like, oh, no, I'm gonna launch. I'm gonna do that. I just need to buy this one more course. I just need to do one more training, one more thing. And maybe you do, but I think, are you taking action? Like, are you going to take any action? Are you going to do anything about it? And I think that's the thing, because you're going to learn the best through actually implementing and trial and error and failing and getting back up and kind of evolving and iterating as you go, versus just sitting back and hoping, you know, if I just study enough, I'll get there, which, you know, that's the perfection thing. I have to get it absolutely perfect first. And I love what you said, that perfection kills profits. That's so true. I've probably not only killed profits, but probably spent so much more money than necessary just because I thought I had to get something else right before I could get out there, which is just, it's just not true. It's not true.
It's so not true. So everybody listening, it's not true. You're lying to yourself. Call yourself out. Cause an identity. Now, I want to stop you from, like, you know, wasting any more time and money by not doing it, because it is the truth. It's really about just dumping in. You know, I have an 80% rule where I'm 80% ready, I fire, right? Like I don't have to wait till it's 100%, but it's like 80%, I know I'm good. That's how I measure. How do you measure whether you know you're ready at a launch?
I jump in both feet no matter what. People say go, I go, and people think I'm crazy for it, but I will jump in and I'll figure it out as I'm doing it. That's just how I am. Like,
okay.
If I semi can comprehend a little bit of what we're doing, like I don't even have to fully comprehend what's going on. But if people are like, hey, we're going to swim this marathon, and it's just, you got to just keep going. And as long as you can breathe, then you should be able to do it. And there's like some parameters, I'll hop in the ocean. I'll just go. And if I feel like I'm just like, you know, this is not working, what do I need to do differently? I'll figure it out. You know, I'll slowly go. You know, people have asked me to do things that I had no idea how to do, but I thought about it for like at least 30 seconds. I'm like, I think I can figure out how to do it. And then I'll ask for help. That's the thing. So the other thing is asking, right? Like I'll ask for help. If I can't figure something out, I will ask for help. I'll go out and say, listen, I've got this far. This is where I'm stumped and I don't know. And because most people feel like they have to be perfect again, and they're going to be judged by everyone if they ask, so they don't even ask. So I'm like, listen, this is as far as I can get. Can you help me get a fresh set of eyes on this and figure out what's next or what's after it, or what am I missing here? And people love to actually help. People love giving advice and love helping. And so then I'll get better help and I'll get it done faster, and I'll have a whole team of people help me accomplish whatever it is I need to accomplish. So
it's so true. I mean, for me, I didn't know to ask because I didn't want to be a bother. I was always told as a kid, don't ask for anything. So we were really, really poor. So anywhere we went, my mother always said, don't ask for anything. Don't ask for anything. And so, you know, it was really difficult to ever ask for anything. I can remember being really hungry at somebody's house and them saying, oh, would you like some food? And I was like, oh no, I'm not hungry. And I was starving, you know? Yeah. So I just know that, you know, it wasn't the judgment of what they would, I guess it is still judgment though, isn't it? Because it wasn't the judgment of like not being afraid to ask as much as being wrong to ask, right?
Right.
But it's still a judgment. I was judging myself that it was wrong. So it's like, yeah, it's really wild. I never got that one yet, but that's the
right. That's so true. I always had the same mentality that I need to do it on my own. Do it on your own. Don't ask. Don't ask. Don't ask. And now I'm just like, I'll jump both feet in and be like, hey, who wants to help? What are we going to do here? And I come to find out people actually would love to help me way more than I ever even ask for help. They want to give me, or they want to assist me. They want to be there for me. They want to be a part of it. Everyone loves that. And so, my mantra with a lot of my colleagues, partners, friends is go fast and break things, because I'm never going to know until I try. So I'll just get out there. We'll do some stuff. We'll test it, and we'll get data. And we talked about this before, but I'll get data. You know, I'll spend $3,000 on ads, and I'm like, I have no idea if they're going to work. They seem like they have all the right magic to make it work, but I'll throw $3,000 at something. I'll see where it goes. I'll get a bunch of numbers, and maybe I make no sales off that ad, but now I have a ton of great numbers, so I can actually have an ad that's going to cost me 10 times less than anything else I could run, and then I can scale up as big as I want. And so, I think that's the thing, is that, when you're dealing with, like some of my clients spend $100,000 a month on Facebook advertising just by themselves.
Yeah.
And so when you're playing with those kind of numbers, it's like you realize that you just have to get data. You have to try,
Yes.
and you don't know because your feelings about it aren't necessarily the truth about what the world is going to react to it versus what the data will show you how the world reacts to it.
So true. So true. That is such a thing that I believe in. So let's talk about more on leverage. How do you really do it all? Like, how do you write, publish, and launch a book in 60 days or less?
So I don't write anything anymore. I wrote my first book, took me 4 years to do, and it was because I was writing. I had to get in my flow state. I had to get in that, that creative juices had to be flowing right, meditate, everything had to be perfect. It took me 4 years. So now the last 2 books taking me 60 days or less per book, and I do meditations and everything, but I record myself. That's part of my training, but I'll just give that away. Is that I record myself. I talk it out, and I get as much content as I can, and then I go back and edit, and get it down a lot faster. That's the quickest way to get content out at all. Videos, blogs, books, anything. It's record it and then edit down everything. Get as much content out as possible because we get stuck on that perfection thing again, and we try to make every single word sound so magical and so beautiful and all these different things. When if we just get the content out and the gist of everything, we can edit down and make it as beautiful as we want. But we can't do that until we have enough meat to actually do that with. So.
Totally get it. So what do you do as far as how do you set goals and stay productive and focused? What do you use? Do you have any apps or anything in specific that you use to do that?
Everyone I know has all these apps, and some of the clients I work with, we have tons of apps, 15.5 and Evernote, all these different things. I use the notes thing that comes regularly with the iPhone.
Yeah.
I map out like 3 months in advance, at least 30 days every day, and then 3 months of like different events and chunks of time. And then I always have like everything mapped out ahead of time. And then I add new things into my days as they come up. Like today, 3 or 4 things were asked of me. So I map it into like either later today or next week, whatever. But I get up, I have a success ritual in the morning. So I get up in the morning, like 4:30, 5 o'clock. I do a meditation in my bed before I get out of bed, get in deep gratitude. And then I attack the hardest thing first after I have my little protein shake. And then I get the hardest thing done first. And then I do 2 more things, so like 3 things that I do every single day for whatever my tasks are, 3 tasks that day. And those are the things that I have to do. Anything else that I want to do is a bonus. And I think I told you before too, is that motion creates emotion. So once I get accomplished and I have that sense of accomplishment, then I tend to find that I have so much more energy and excitement and passion that I end up conquering 7 or 8 things that day. But I always know my 3 main things are done, and I get way more done because I'm way more excited and I'm passionate. And I'm like, I'm doing really good. I'm killing it. I feel good about it. Versus if I sluggishly have that incompleteness, which I hate incompleteness, and I put off the thing that I know I'm thinking about all day. I'm like, I don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. That drains so much out of me all day. So that whatever that main thing is that I know I'll think about all day, I do right away, right before 6 a.m. that thing's done. And if it's an email, if it's a funnel, if it's a campaign, if it's a meeting, if it's a book, whatever it is, report, I do that thing and I get it out of the way. And that way I know the whole rest of the day is like easygoing, very relaxed, and I have no big pressure things on my mind. And then I have more energy to do everything else. So that's how I get the most productive.
I love that because you're really mastering your mind instead of allowing the mind to just run you.
Right.
Yeah. That's really brilliantly said, the way that you do that. And that's really valuable information for everybody listening because that right there was gold. So really take note what he said. Good. That he really gets it out of his way because it's that incompleteness that you're speaking about, that space of incompleteness. We may think, well, that's not that big of a deal. Like we may not really slow down to really think about it, but that one energy killer, which you so brilliantly said, it will kill your energy and take your attention constantly about running in the background of your mind that you have something that's incomplete is actually the worst unproductive thing that a person could actually do.
And the way I look at it, the way I look at our minds is like this is a hardware. Our brain is the hardware. Our minds are the software. And it's just like if you have a phone. If your battery on your iPhone is dying so quickly because you have apps in the background running all the time. You have programs going, updating over and over and push notifications. You have all this stuff and it's killing your phone. And you're like, it's 1 o'clock. Why is my phone dead? dead already. I haven't done anything on it because things are running in the background all the time. And that's what our minds do. If we have those tasks that we're not doing, it's always running. That's why by 5 o'clock, you're like, I need a beer and watch some TV because I'm exhausted. You haven't even felt like you did anything because your mind's been going to town trying to solve a riddle that you could have accomplished in the morning, and you could have been free of it and had more. Like by the time 5 o'clock comes, like it's, you know, it's almost 4 o'clock here in the Pacific. And I'm more excited today. I've got more momentum talking to people and being excited and talking about getting to 1 million a month and all these different things we're doing. And I'm like more jacked as I go. So each call I get happier and happier because I've got the hard things out in the morning, and now I'm just free to like create and grow and expand the rest of the day. So
that is so much gold right there, Corey. Like that key right there is huge. So I'm so happy that you touched on that. What do you think is the most common mistake that all too many authors make in writing their first book? What do you think that is?
I think the biggest thing, I think that what holds them up is that they think they have to have this, like, so every time I talk to someone who wants to write a book that's part of my programs or anything else, they're always like, I have this idea and that idea and this idea. And they have like 7 or 8 ideas, and then they don't do any of them because they can't figure out which to do first, right?
Yeah.
What I tell everyone, and it's so hard for them to swallow, is take all of your ideas and make one book. People are like, what do you mean? I'm like, the 7 ideas you have, those are called 7 chapters of one singular book. And they're like, no way, I couldn't do that. I'm like, no, because a year from now, you're going to have 7 new book ideas. Like if you're an entrepreneur, your mind's going to keep going. You're not going to stop creating. You're going to keep building more and more. So give everything right now. Make it your best book ever. And then when you have an information download for another book, then write a new one. But for now, give all of it in one book. Just get it out. Give away the best and the good. Don't try to like hold back. And like people always do that thing where they like, oh, I'll hold back and I'll launch this later and then I'll launch that. Give it all up now. Do everything now and launch now. And then a year from now, when that makes $5 million, I'm sure you're going to have way cooler ideas, or a partner or a friend or someone's going to have another idea to launch something else. Like there's like, if you have an abundance mindset and not come from a place of scarcity, which I know we were both raised in that scarcity, right? And so to get over that scarcity and get to a place of abundance, to realize there's always going to be more. There's more money, more ideas, more creativity, more energy. There's more excitement. There's more clients. There's more everything. There's never going to be a lack of anything in the universe, in the world, in whatever we live in. It's not going to ever stop. So just don't try to hold back and be in that scarcity, you know, middle child. I have to hold my toys in my room because my siblings might take them type of mentality. So
now, how did you get there? Because you touched on something like, you know, how did you get to be so confident that there was always more? Was that during your enlightenment? And I know you help others to achieve that. So is that something that you can actually help somebody develop, that knowing that there's always going to be more?
Yeah, so I think I do help a lot of my clients with that abundance mindset. It took me, you know, I've done like probably 15 or 1600 hours of meditation at this point. And so, you know, it took some practice to get there. It started with the spiritual experience, and it went a lot of practice after that. But I think the big thing is, you know, like I said earlier about the batting 1000, like you've never failed, you've never died, right? Because you're still here, you're still alive, you're still somewhat okay. Even if you emotionally don't feel that way, you're alive, so you're okay. It's imaginary, let go of it. And I think number 2 is to give. When you feel like you need to hoard, give. When you feel like you need to like tighten, let go. Like every time you feel that sense, instead of thinking of like the ego or all those things as bad, think of them as your best friend. Like my ego is my best friend because he's always there to instruct me on when I need to stop resisting. Like every time I have that thought of I need to hold on to this thing, I need to like grasp, I need to get defensive or angry or whatever, I'm like, oh, and I instantly have an awakening every single time now, all day long, like a waking meditation. And I'm like, oh, thank you, ego, for showing me what I'm resisting. And then it instantly dissolves and I'm at peace again. And I can free flow give that versus trying to hold on to it. Like I don't need, like even the coaching clients, I don't do a lot of one-on-one coaching for a huge, crazy income. It's not scalable. I do it because it's a way to give something back. And there's an energy exchange there. And I think as long as you're free flowing, then you're going to always be provided for. But as soon as you hoard, what happens is that you stop the energetic flow to give to you because you're saying, all I want is this. So how can any more come in if you're holding on tightly? There's no room for anything else to flow into you. So you have to let go and like try to release and give when you're feeling like you should tighten even more. So
I love it. Like, be a contrarian.
Yeah, use it as a sign. Like, it's your body, your mind is trying to tell you what to do. Just do the opposite of whatever it is that it's trying to tell you. Just go, oh, that's what that means. And then boom, you're in the magic zone again. So
It's awesome. So where is your business heading now?
So my business is heading now. So this year, in the next 3 months, we're one of the corporations that I run. We're going to scale to 1 million a month, and then we're going to put that on autopilot. And then we're going to launch a couple other courses, do some joint ventures. So I think for the next year, we'll just maximize the three industries we're in. And then we're going to pivot to more of an e-learning. So we're going to branch off into every niche. And instead of us building everything in every niche, we're going to find heroes in every niche to represent us. And we're going to partner 50-50 with them. So whether it's this niche, that niche, there'll be a different hero in each niche. And then they'll be a business partner so they can be the face of that. And then we'll just have a whole entire e-learning company that we can scale to 100 million instead of trying to build it all ourselves, do it all ourselves. So.
Awesome. That is the ultimate leverage.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Really well done. Really well done. So Corey, you have shared some incredible insights with us today. And I know you've also put together an awesome free gift for our listeners. Would tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Enlightened Entrepreneurs is basically $50,000 in online courses in a book. And I'm giving it away. And the reason I wrote it was because, there's so many things that people buy. And not that, I mean, I love the courses I sell. I love what you sell. But there's people I believe in that are actually giving huge value that I think can help people truly scale up in personal and in business. But then there's a lot of stuff that I think should be free, that I think should be or next to free, that I think is kind of the foundational things. And so Enlightened Entrepreneurs is twofold. One of it is the business side of being, making income through your impact and creating a life of purpose. The business side of it is all in there. But then also my little twist of the enlightened part of it is that, trying to tie it all into one, trying to make sure that who you are and what you represent in the world are one and the same. That congruency, think, act, feel, and do everything in one. And treat your clients as a different representation of you. And I think when you do that, not only do they get better results, you get better results, and everyone's just happier in this moment and in the future. So it's kind of a retwist on business itself, but it's helped me, so I wanted to share it.
That's awesome. Well, to take advantage of Corey's generous offers, just simply click the link below. And now I just want to ask you some amazing closing inspirational round of questions. So quick responses. Who inspires you?
Who inspires me? I would say one of the biggest inspirations in my life would be Ernest Holmes, but he's dead now. So, but Ernest Holmes, yeah.
Ernest Holmes. And why? Why Ernest Holmes?
He was one of the first, the founders of kind of the new mind, of being able to, a lot of the things that I follow in my day-to-day, or just how I live my life that I stumbled upon or found were kind of created by him. The science of mind and being able to really tap into something beyond what we're just now in neuroscience starting to tap into what he's been talking about for over 100 years, which he's found true. And I think there's so much more that he knew that we'll never know because he's not here. So he just inspired me with the way he thought about things, especially in the time, day, and age that he lived. I would have loved to sit down and have coffee with him if I could have. So.
That would be great. What do you think is the worst advice that you hear or see people being given about writing a book?
Oh, the worst advice.
Yeah.
I think probably these publishers that charge ridiculous prices to make it complicated. I charge $1,000 or a few $1,000s for my course, and I think that's fairly inexpensive compared to what you get out of it, but it's not as complicated as a lot of people make it. And I feel like there's the mystery there that I think is, to me, it kind of hurts my feelings to see, because they get bamboozled when really they want to create a message. And I feel like that should be rewarded versus taken advantage of. So I think that's probably the hard thing is making it seem like it's more complicated than it is.
What's the best advice that you've ever received?
The best advice was when someone told me Napoleon Hill said, action is the true measure of intelligence. I think that was probably one of the best pieces of advice, because I can easily be an intellectual and be, the French revolutionists and talk about great idealistic things. But it truly means absolutely nothing if you don't get behind it with some action. So I try to make sure that everything I think, say, or pontificate about, I follow up with some kind of boots on the ground to make it happen. So.
Great. What would you say is your personal mantra or motto or a quote that you live by?
So one of the quotes I live by, I came up with my own during a meditation, is "There's nowhere to go, you're already there." And I follow that. I have it in my notes at the top of my to-do list, right? Every time I wake up in the morning, I have these notes of 10 different things that have come to me, these realizations that I love, that I haven't put in books or shared really with anyone. And one of them is "There's nowhere to go, you're already there," because that way I can stay present in the moment, create from a place of true abundance, that I don't have to gain or subtract anything to make myself or my life more of what it truly already is.
Love that one. That is awesome. I love that one. What do you believe is true, even if you can't prove it?
That there is just one giant being here having an experience with itself, that there's no separation. There is no duality. There is no me and the other. There's just one entire universal something that I have no idea what it is, who it is, how it is, all here experiencing itself as itself. And we are its eyes to see and its ears to hear. And we're all here trying to discover what it is we truly are.
Awesome. What is your idea of misery?
Oof, my idea of misery would be to be, so it's almost heaven. It's almost heaven with the exception of never truly being in heaven and not being able to realize it, I guess is the best way to put it. Being in absolute bliss and paradise, which sometimes it feels like it is on this planet, and we just can't quite realize it. And I think that would be, the hardest thing, is having it all and not knowing you have it all. There's just something about that sounds like complete torture to me.
What do you most want to be remembered for?
Oh, I think truth, and not just truth, but inspiring people to speak their truth, to find truth, to seek truth, to be truth, to share truth, to get down to the bottom of whatever they are and whatever life is. I think if I can inspire people to dig, to seek, to try, to wonder, I think then I would feel complete in my life.
All right, lastly, what is extreme confidence a result of?
So this one I love. This is a great question. So extreme confidence is the result of congruency. So when you can think, act, feel, and say and do all the same thing, when how you show up in the world is who you are on the inside, and to every single person on social media or to your mom, that is extreme confidence, because you have nothing to hide, you have no secrets, you have nowhere else to be or pretend or no show to put on. You are just you, all the time, everywhere, and that is extreme confidence.
I love that. Of course, I love that so much. That's awesome, Corey. I just want to acknowledge you tremendously for the heart that you have. You're just such a love for people, your sincerity, and really helping people live out their purpose, doing it so with such high integrity and follow through. I just thank you so much for who you are and what you bring to this world.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It means a lot.
Yeah. And thank you everyone for listening and joining us on our next episode to learn more from our amazing panel of experts on the how-tos of success to develop your skills, take action, and have the extreme confidence for your results. Bye for now.